If you are not cheating, you're not trying. And if you are caught cheating, you're not trying hard enough. Waves crashed against the wooden hull of the sailboat on the French coast. The sky was cloudy and the moon obscured, accompanied with wind and rain. For the people meeting, the foul weather was ideal. Collet Sinclair and her French resistance associate Jean Michel collected 2 crates containing a portable radio system, explosives, and ammunition. They hauled the crates ashore, thanking the British operatives before pushing the dinghy back into the sea. The shore was rarely watched. The jagged rocks and harsh break of the surf made large craft landing nearly impossible, therefore overlooked by the enemy. They made their way back to dry land, soaked by the sea. The rain was lashing at their faces. "That went well," Jean said. Wiping rain off her thick round spectacles, Colette checked her watch. 0300. In 15 minutes, a German patrol would pass by this side of the beach, which gave them 5 minutes to disappear with their cargo into the woods. If they were caught past curfew, they would be interrogated and shot. As a British Secret Service operative, Colette could not let herself fall into enemy hands. A cyanide capsule concealed in a necklace stayed with her at all times. "Let's get out of sight before we get shot," Colette said, grabbing the handle of one of the crates. This heavy lifting was part of her job, but she despised it. So much risk for so little reward. The people across the channel had no idea of their true situation. Resistance groups had become rivals. They robbed, beat, and in some cases killed their own. Some had become collaborators simply for the protection the Germans provided. There were few whose virtue was kept intact. Fear reveals all. Jean grabbed the other side of the box. He knew when Colette had a plan that it had to be followed to the letter. Colette had made this clear to everyone in their faction. After the plans were set, everything was simple. All anyone needed to do was execute the orders. Colette had been privately educated in Britain, daughter to a rich French father and an English mother. She was fluent in both languages, with flawless accents. She had studied German and maths for her school exams, passing with flying colours. This had made her valuable to the exclusive group of people who preferred to work in the dark. Jean heaved the crates to the cover of the nearby woods. As Colette had predicted, the patrol was right on time. They lay low, watching the soldiers pass by on the road, talking and laughing. Colette knew once they had passed this point, they would have another 20 minutes. Colette mustered every ounce of resilience not to shake in her freezing, wet, soaking clothes. The trees swayed, creaking in the wind. As the last soldier faded into the grey mist, they made their move. As Colette began to stand, she heard something rustle behind her. She whipped round, instinctively reaching for the revolver concealed in her coat, but she was too slow. 3 men, armed with rifles, loomed out of the woods from behind the trees. "Don't even think about it," the smallest of them said. Colette knew immediately who it was. Claude Champeau. He was little more than a small-time gangster. Champeau had taken advantage of the lucrative equipment that washed on shore, stealing and selling to the highest bidder. "Thank you, Miss Sinclair, we'll take it from here," Champeau said in his nasally voice, raising it over the sound of the wind. Colette stood. She was a couple of inches taller than Champeau. She knew it frustrated him. "How much for the radio?" Colette said. This had happened before. Colette knew to bring money. "Shall we say 100? Champeau said with a poisonous grimace. 100 was steep, but it was the price to pay. Colette and Jean reached for their money. Handing out the money, Champeau shook his head. "Marks! We do not deal in francs. Next time, bring real money." With that, he commanded his henchmen to collect the crates, leaving Colette and Jean alone in the woods. "That was a waste of time," Jean said, disappointed. We'll be fine, Colette replied. She had prepared for this exact event. The first time had set things back for months. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, and I need to reevaluate my plan. Colette knew that in 15 minutes, 5 former French army soldiers would intercept Champeau and his goons at a specific time at a specific place. Mission accomplished. This was the part Colette lived for, piecing her plans together like a well-oiled machine and then watching them unfurl. Colette had the knack and love of calculations. Statistics and numbers just seemed to fall into place in her head, and it frustrated her when they didn't. Slinking into the dark, Colette and Jean made the unpleasant trudge to their rendezvous point, where her men would be waiting with the crates. The rat ran, one of the soldiers said. Colette checked her watch. They were still on time. Another patrol would be coming soon. It was the soldiers' time to take charge. Colette's work was done. Divide and conquer. Hence the reason Colette had kept the information of the soldiers from Jean. The less people know, the less information there would be to divulge if captured. Watch your backs, Colette said to the sergeant. You more than me. The rat was not happy. Colette reached into her pocket, handing the sergeant the francs. Another calculation she had made. She had known Champeau would never have taken the French money. The payment was for their loyalty, as well as a gesture of good faith. True French patriots would never deal in marks. The mission was not over. Only after receiving a coded message from the soldiers would Colette deem the mission a success. She would deal with Champeau another time. He was vicious but not smart. He was proud and acted on emotion, with little consideration for the long term. Being outsmarted by a woman half his age would be a haymaker on his ego, another calculation Colette had made. Having dealt with Champeau before, Colette began to form 3 different plots on how she would deal with him. One involved bribery, the other blackmail, and the third multiple killings. Option 3 would sit on the back bench. It would involve the disposal of at least 3 bodies, and the piece of paper Colette had signed barely 1 year ago forbade her from carrying out an assassination of non-enemy combatants. Although it was the practicality that bothered Colette, not necessarily the rules. Her handler in London had a don't do it but don't get caught policy. They knew the game well. If you're not cheating, you're not trying. And if you're caught cheating, you're not trying hard enough. Strict parents and teachers had formed Colette into a competent liar, enjoying the benefits of a young, privileged woman, touring the pleasures of London clubs and society, fine drink, food, and cocaine, fast love, fast cars, and slow horses. She had led an undeserved high life on her accountant father's payroll, the same man who had gifted her the precious watch on her wrist. One night, a man by the name of Alex Abbott approached her in a bar. They wound up in his hotel room, but instead of a night of lovemaking, Colette had been offered a job to work at the British Embassy as a translator, and also to keep an ear out for anything interesting. This was her calling. Colette needed to justify being a brat. She kicked the cocaine. Adrenaline took the place of the white powder. That was the new high. Colette loved the work, cleaner and more natural. Deception and manipulation, the perfect cocktail to get the blood pumping. Come on, let's get the fuck out of here, Jean said. Colette checked her watch. 4 minutes until the patrol would pass. The rain continued to pour as they retreated to Jean's home, where his wife Albany waited with dinner. Parents of 2 young children, Louis and Adeline. The Michel family were laying a lot on the line. To the children, Colette was their godmother, bringing sweets whenever she visited. In return, the children would say how much they loved her. Children were sponges. Colette had to push the thought of putting children in harm's way to the back of her mind. She dared not think of the consequences should they be discovered. There was a knock at the door, but not the harsh raps of the Germans. Whoever it was past curfew after all. Jean cracked the door, seconds later closing it and turning, fear in his eyes. "We are having guests," he spoke. This was code for "the Germans are coming." Colette stood, acting casual, leaving the room. Once she was out of sight of the children, she bolted up the stairs, all the way to the attic. Jean followed, opening the attic trapdoor for her. Colette scurried up the ladder. They had done this 100 times. Jean pushed the door up with a broom, plunging Colette into darkness. Totally blind and on her hands and knees, Colette felt her way to the corner of the attic. Her hands brushing against a large trunk, she unlatched it and climbed inside, landing on a pile of old moth-eaten clothes. Colette burrowed into the bottom of the trunk, concealing herself under the garments, finally holding the tiny capsule around her neck close to her lips. She could barely breathe. Rain hammered on the roof. The attic door opened. Colette remained still. Anything short of a specific password from Jean meant she must remain invisible. She heard voices, speaking French but with German accents. "Not much up here," Jean said, "but you are welcome to look around." "We will," a deep voice said, before giving an order in German. The floorboards began to creak. "What's in there?" "I'm not sure," Jean replied. Colette had to admire how calm he was being. "You don't know what's in your own trunk?" A chill creeped up Colette's spine. "It's been up here for years. I can't remember." "You won't mind if we have a look then?" "Be my guest." "Heinrich, open it up." His boots creaked towards the trunk. Colette could feel her heart in her throat. She placed the capsule between her teeth, ready to bite down at any moment. The lid was lifted. Colette froze, her heart racing so fast she was sure if they listened hard enough they would be able to hear it. Something prodded Colette in the thigh. It wasn't sharp, but it wasn't soft. Once again, in the lower back. "Heinrich, what's in there?" "Just a bunch of old clothes," Heinrich said, slamming the trunk closed. "Well, it seems we must have been mistaken, Mr. Michel. Maybe just a drunk seeing things in the dark." "Happens to the best of us," Jean said, keeping his calm tone. "One more question. You haven't been out past curfew, have you?" "No. Why?" "You're soaking wet. Late night stroll?" "Oh, no. My wife doesn't like me smoking next to the children. I only stepped out for a minute." "You must have been desperate. Hard habit to kick." There was silence. The attic door closed. After what felt like an eternity, Jean returned, giving the password. Whitetail. Colette scrambled out of the trunk. Jean was already climbing down the ladder by the time she had untangled herself. She passed Albany in the middle of putting the children to bed. Albany said nothing. Colette met Jean in the kitchen. He was sat at the table, smoking. She reached for her own cigarettes, lighting one. Her hands were shaking as she did so. "That went well," she said, repeating Jean's words on the beach, bathing in the afterglow of the overload of adrenaline. Jean glared at her. "When were you planning on telling me about your plan to rob Champeau?" he said. His voice told all. "One phone call. That was all it took. I knew it was him. How could you not tell me?" "The less you know, the better. It keeps you and your family safe," Colette said. She had thought Jean might accost her on withholding information. "Say that again," Jean said, leaning forward, resting his elbows on the table. "If you don't know much, you can't give much. The less you can give the enemy, the safer you will be." "Sturmbannführer Kell was in my fucking house," Jean said. His tone was low, but there was anger in his eyes. "The man who tortures people with a whip with nails. Please do not tell me this was all just so you could have your revenge on Champeau. We needed a radio, Colette began, but Jean cut her off. Answer the question. We needed to show Champeau we were the ones in charge, so he would leave us alone. Leave us alone! One phone call, that was all it took. And we all could have been dead. Jean stood up, pointing at Colette. I understand you are clever, but you do not have to prove this to everyone you meet. Did you think that Champeau would not talk to the Germans? Colette had thought of the possibility. However, the odds had been in favour of Champeau keeping quiet, a near fatal miscalculation. The first robbery of the radio had left Colette humiliated. She had wanted to deal a similar blow. Colette had been caught up in the excitement. She had wanted her fix. I'm sorry, Jean, she said. I really am. I'll never do it again. Jean sat back down, stubbing out his cigarette. Have some soup before you go to bed. With that, he left the room.